This is The Meaningful Way. I'm your host, Luke Iorio. How do we navigate through the busyness of our lives while trying to keep focus on what matters most, all while having enough of the right kind of energy in the tank to fuel the life we desire? It's not that we don't want to focus on both our health as well as what matters most. It's just that we get caught up in all of the day-to-day, month-to-month demands of being a professional or a parent or a breadwinner or a spouse or whatever hat it is we're going to put on next. Well, today, we're going to look to find where all of these topics and demands and hats harmonize around our health. And to do that, I want to introduce you to two guests. That's right, we get two guests, two partners today that I am very much looking forward to spending some time with. Today, we're going to spend time with Lisa, Paul-Newman and Heidi Moneymaker of Fierce Lotus. Lisa is a fitness expert and personality, an entrepreneur, the mother of two, CFO of a restaurant chain, personal trainer, fitness model, and spokeswoman. Heidi is an actress, fitness expert, and stunt woman. That's right, Heidi Moneymaker is a prominent stunt woman in the industry, currently working on the Avengers, Infinity War, and was just featured in a starring role in John Wick 2. And together, Lisa and Heidi formed Fierce Lotus, a fitness group that promotes a healthy lifestyle, body, mind, and soul. And their first book, The Balanced Warrior, was released in September 2016 and became the #1 bestseller in 6 health and fitness categories. And this year, they get to launch their Action Star workout program that's going to be a fitness regimen available through trainers. With that, Heidi and Lisa, I want to welcome you to The Meaningful Way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, guys, I guess maybe the part to begin with, to give everybody just a little bit of background, is kind of the how did you get here? And I mean that in terms of what was it for both of you that led you to have this focus on mind, body, soul the way that you do, and really what then led to the partnership that brought the two of you together to form Fierce Lotus?
Wow, great question. Well, my name's Heidi Moneymaker, and I'm currently a stunt woman and actress in some of the big action films you just mentioned, and also co-owner of Fierce Lotus. And I would love to talk about what led me here. I started off as a competitive gymnast, and it was from the time I was about 5, just my life. It's all I wanted to do. I did gymnastics when I was training. I did gymnastics when I was at home, playing with my sisters and brothers. It was just, it was all I thought about. And my end goal was I was going to make an Olympic team, and that was the deal, and it was just going to happen. And there was no contingency plan, what if you don't make it kind of thing. And my year would have been 1996, and I didn't make it. And it's sort of, as felt like my world was crashing in around me, and here this thing I, created my identity off of basically was kind of over. And I took a moment and thought, well, I can be done with it and be depressed, or I can find, another way to use it. So I continued to train and I continued to compete and earned a scholarship to UCLA and was able to go to this amazing college with one of the best teams in the country, on a scholarship. So that led me to LA and to UCLA, and, kind of something similar happened at the end of my career there. It was all of a sudden I was graduating, and, I thought, wow, so 22 years old and that's it. I've been doing this, twice a day, 6 days a week.
Right.
My whole life, and then it's just gone, and so once again I went through this kind of depression and sadness about it, and I thought, well, okay, what are you going to do? You're going to be sad about it and be depressed like a lot of other athletes and not find your way, or are you going to dig deep and go inside and figure out what it is that makes you tick and what you really want to do? And it's around this time, I started getting a lot of anxiety because I wasn't training as much, and I started kind of getting panicky about life and what I was going to do. And it's around this time I really had to figure something out. And that's when I started learning about meditation and trying to find ways to use the tools I had learned in gymnastics, like visualization techniques and mantras, and really use those for life purposes, and not just so that I can stay on the balance beam in high pressure situations. And so, once I calmed myself a little bit and sort of became one, with what I was doing, I realized there's another avenue. And so I started working in film and television a little bit, doing, stunt doubling for gymnastics parts, and then eventually trained martial arts and cars and motorcycles and the whole thing. And, was able to become stunt double for a lot of these big actresses and I've been doing it now 13, 14 years. But once again, I'm turning 40 next year, and how long can you get hit by cars and get around buildings? I've separated.
Run-of-the-mill questions we all ask ourselves.
Right. Well, right around 40, everyone's wondering, how much longer can I get hit by cars? You start sustaining injuries and your body starts going, hey, maybe not so long. So a couple of years ago, I started thinking, what am I going to do? There's no way I can just, retire and sit around. I'm too active. And, Lisa and I had been friends for a while, and she's the only woman really I've ever known that can kick my ass in the gym. I mean, she's a badass.
I try.
Yeah, she's amazing. She can outwork out me any day. So I thought, this is a good partnership. That we should train more. We started training more and more, and then eventually thought we should put all of our knowledge together, because I realized all the tricks and tools I've been using for years, in my world, and to get me over these obstacles and to the next point, Lisa had been using as well, and she has a totally different life. So it was really interesting. We thought we need to bring this out there and share this with people. It applies to everybody. So yeah.
Like she said, I actually did turn 40 this year, and I think turning 40, that's kind of a big turning point. You think about, hey, what kind of got you here, and what have I done in terms of overcoming the struggles and accomplishing all the goals? And if I look back on it, it kind of started in college when I was 18. I had so much anxiety. I was, of course, like everybody, running to classes, trying to make deadlines for your exams, and then also working. I had to make sure I had held a part-time job so that I could pay for my, recreations, of my gym membership, or, going out and having ice cream or something like that. So what I turned to was workouts. I always, made me feel better. I would eat clean. I would get a sweat, and that allowed me to manage getting to class and acing those tests, and then also getting up and going to my job and making sure, we all want a social life, and being able to hold that. So definitely workouts and eating clean were part of my regimen then. When I had my career, I still was turning to workouts and eating right then too. I had deadlines. I was managing a team of people. Being a CFO, which is a financial person, is crunching numbers all the time. It's stressful. And in order to produce accurate information, I needed to figure out, what am I going to do to be able to do this? And again, turning to workouts. Luckily, I do find working out exciting, and I enjoy doing it. So it's not something that I have to kind of pull myself out of bed to do, which I'm thankful. But I think the key is that the more you work out, the easier it is to kind of turn to that strategy. After probably about 5 years, I was like, okay, I kind of want to have kids. That's kind of a turning point. And we started to try, and it was about 5 months went by, and nothing was happening. And, another 5 months went by, and soon, we kind of felt like, I did get pregnant, and I had a couple miscarriages, and I felt one day like I was never going to be a mom. And that was really hard. I was depressed. I had anxiety about it. And again, I turned to workouts, and also was trying to think, I'm not going to be able to work out and get pregnant. I can't keep working out. So what else am I going to do?
Well, I think we have to explain how Lisa works out. I mean, this girl, she kickboxes. She could kick a guy's butt. I mean, she works out like crazy high intensity and hours and hours and hours when she can, right? So
yeah, so it wasn't the only thing that I could turn to. So that's kind of when meditation came into play. Me is like, hey, you know what? I need something more than just workouts and eating right in terms of wanting to get pregnant. And I really started to meditate and have mantras and visualization. But I have to admit, at the beginning, it wasn't easy for me. I had to start with 30 seconds a day. Then it led to a minute, then up to 5 minutes, and to really feel the effects. I did get pregnant, and I had 2 kids, but I honestly attribute it to a lot of my mind. It's like, I believed that I could do it. I believed that it was going to happen. And along with eating right and, the fitness and the meditating, I was able to get pregnant and actually balance a career and be a mom. And so to this day, that's kind of, Heidi and I met, and we decided, hey, you know what? We have turned to these 3 things. There's fitness, there's eating right, and there's stillness. And being able to use them throughout our lives has made us successful.
Right.
And build this brand.
And it's interesting. I want to come back to the meditation point in just a little while, because I do recognize that in both of your stories, there's this element of growing your identity, evolving your identity as you went through your different journeys. Heidi, I think it was very, very pronounced in what you were describing of how you were going through these various stages and how you were ultimately using parts of what you had learned and then knowing what it is you could leave behind. And it sounds like, Lisa, you did different pieces of that as well throughout your journey. And I guess maybe that's the one thing that I read in the very early part of your book, The Balanced Warrior, and Lisa, I know this is related to your background, that I wanted to ask you about, was that you talk about when you're a mom. And this, again, for everybody, this applies to, moms and dads and breadwinners and partners and any number of different job titles, but specific here is when you're a mom, part of what you discuss is how you don't end up losing your identity to that role and those demands. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, because I know how many parents there are out there that get consumed by obviously what it is that they're going through and consumed with the demands of being a parent and all the different demands, and then trying to make a living and doing all of these things all at once. And you worked your way through that. So I'm just curious what that experience was like, and how do you, when you say don't lose your identity to it, what does that mean? What did that look like for you?
Well, I think what it looks like is, what you brought up in the intro is the changing of hats. And that is so important in terms of being a mom, because I really want to be successful at every single thing that I'm doing. And first and foremost is being a mom. And that means that I'm 100% there for my children. And when I'm there for my children, that means, I'm helping with the homework, I'm managing their fights, I'm doing all those different things. But I'm driving to, I think this weekend I spent 3 hours driving to my son's club basketball. But you're 100% in that mom phase. You also need to make sure that you're doing 100% for you, because so many of my clients, because I'm a trainer as well, hey, my daughter's turning 13 and she doesn't need me anymore. She doesn't think she needs me anymore. She doesn't want anything to do with me. Even now, my kids are 11. They're constantly wanting play dates, or they want kids to come over. So it's like, you really need to develop something for yourself. And that, in terms of whether it be a workout or whether it be developing you love to cook. Well, let's figure out how you can cook in terms of healthy wise. Make your meals amazing, and they're still healthy and they're still nutritious. So I think that's kind of the strategy to go to having that balanced life of as a mom. Whether you're a working mom or whether you're a stay-at-home mom, there's changing those hats in terms of whether you're working out, whether you're cooking, whether you're working on an art project, or whether you're the president of the PTO. Just making sure that you are able to change that hat is crucial.
So I know you're starting to go into, one of what you guys consider to be the trinities of the trinity of balance, and I'm going to get to that just in 1 second. I guess maybe the one piece I'd love for you both to share a little bit more is about that need to replenish yourself, because I think that's one of the things that we know logically. It makes sense. Yes, we've got to take care of ourselves. Yes, I think as you say, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before your kids. And yet, we know that that's easier said than done. And so I'm just curious if you could share a bit more of how we begin to build that commitment to say, no, this is what I need to do for myself, or I can't be there for others.
I'll give you an example for me. So, because like I said, our weekends are so busy. Fitness and meditation and stillness are what gets me through it. Now, if I have a weekend where I'm stuck at a basketball tournament and it's way out and I didn't get up, 20 miles away and I'm there all day, I didn't get my workout in. Well, I need to figure out how I'm going to squeeze that workout. That starts in your mind. The mind starts, hey, there's absolutely no excuse that I'm not going to be able to find 20 minutes in between some kind of game where I'm going to take a walk around the building, or I'm going to take a walk, down the street and get some kind of workout in. And that's going to make you feel better about yourself. You start up and say, what am I going to prepare to take as a meal? Am I going to eat something at the snack stand, or am I going to pack myself a clean lunch that I can turn to, and that's going to make me feel better and encourage me in turn to make that walk?
I don't have children at this point, but I do have a million things going on. I have 4 animals. I have all sorts of things happening. And I think there's a couple different levels to this need to replenish yourself. And one, the most important, I think, is this oxygen mask situation we have here, where if you can't breathe and you die of lack of oxygen, you're definitely no good to anybody around you. So that's kind of, how we put this. Like you really need to be the best version of you so that you can be 100% there for your family and your friends and your children and your animals. And it is very important. And I think part of the problem is that a lot of people, there's a lot of pressure to that. Because once you start taking care of yourself, you have to hold yourself accountable. And I think a lot of us use our children or our jobs or our husbands or whatever it is that we're using as that thing that keeps us from being able to take care of ourselves, because maybe we're afraid deep down that maybe we don't deserve to take care of ourselves, or maybe we feel deep down like, man, I don't know if I can get myself in the shape that I want to get into, or maybe, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure around here for people to have it all and to do it all. And I think it comes down to like, hey, no excuses. Your number one is you. And once you take care of you, and once you hold yourself accountable to what you need to make yourself the best version of you, then you can go ahead and help the rest of the people around you.
I like the way that you say that, because it's almost as if there's things within our lives that we use. You could either call it rationalizations or well-meaning excuses. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's not that we don't want to put our kids first or our spouses first or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, it also then lets us off the hook, and it lets us just kind of maintain the status quo and not really kind of make the commitment to, no, I am going to make some of these types of changes. And I believe also then with Lisa, what you were saying in terms of just the simple things that you could do to maybe get in that 20-minute walk or whatever the case may be. It doesn't always have to look one way, that, workouts must look like this at the gym. You're sweating this much, and this is all that it can be. There's a lot of different ways to do this. And so I guess if you guys could go a little bit into that idea of the trinity of balance that you talk about, because I'll be honest, when I usually hear the word balance, for me, it's almost like a cringe effect, right? I get this visual in my head of somebody spinning 18 different plates. They're in perfect yoga posture, monitoring their breathing, and everything's on the right time, right? And yet I know that there's so much more to this. And that's what I really appreciate with the rest of what you guys go into, is it's multiple perspectives on really what does this thing called balance mean?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, the first 3 years of our friendship, Lisa and my friendship, we didn't go to lunch, we didn't go to dinner, we didn't go shopping. Every single time we met, it was to work out, because her and I are both so busy that if we could even find an hour to meet each other and work out, we were lucky. So when we decided to create Fierce Lotus and to write The Balanced Warrior, we thought, let's tell people how we're really doing this, because we are so busy. So basically, we have all these little tricks. And you go back to this, a workout doesn't have to look a certain way. We have all these quick sweats in our book. We call them quick sweats because they're anywhere from, I think, 3 minutes to 20 minutes, not the longest one in there, 15 or 20 minutes. And they're little workouts you can shove in anywhere. And we try to get our clients and people following our program to use these quick sweats and sprinkle them in throughout their day. So it's not just like one little set of squats and that's all I did today, even though if that's all you do, at least you did something. Yeah. It's one set of squats in the 5 minutes I had when I was picking up my daughter and I was waiting for her. And then later it was, okay, well, I got to take the dog for a walk. So I'm actually going to take the dog for a jog. And when I get out there, I'm going to do a few lunges. So we have all these little quick things you can sprinkle in throughout your day. On top of that, it's about planning. You got to plan for these things. You got a busy day, you got to plan your meals. And that sometimes means, making a giant green smoothie and bringing it with you and having all sorts of snacks and high protein, things with you throughout your day and extra water. And then also, finding those little moments. You've got 5 minutes in between picking up Sally and Jesse. Great. Sit in your car, shut the windows, take 5 slow, deep breaths and just, take that moment to calm yourself, because even 5 minutes is going to make a big difference. So for us, balance really isn't about being perfect. It's not about having that perfect hour workout and having your whole family's meals, gourmet and whatever. It's about finding those little moments when you can squeak in those things that are going to benefit you.
It's great. I appreciate the, we go into these new changes within our lifestyle that we want to get into. We go into it with a plan. Obviously, you've got to have a plan to be able to move forward. But then the descriptions that you have around flexibility, which I think is so critical, because we can't control when little Johnny's going to come out of school. He can be 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, whatever it's going to be on that particular day. And so to be able to have that flexibility for when things don't look exactly as planned. And then what you had mentioned before, which I wanted to bring back, is that idea of transitioning smoothly between roles. And the reason why I wanted to bring that back is I wanted to bring meditation and the conversation around stillness back into this as well, because I'm curious with this idea of balance, the plan, the flexibility, the smooth transition. How is it, what was it that the stillness, that the meditation provided to you both that had been previously missing?
Well, like I said, for me, it was more about, when I couldn't have children. I think that was, I figured I can't work out as hard as I want and eat whatever, have this have all these great habits in food. I have to add another element to getting what I want. And, meditation was crucial because it gave me that sense of, wow, I'm going to visualize this happening. I'm going to become still. And I'm like this go, 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 go person. I would never take even a yoga class because I thought it was going to be too boring. It was going to be too still and I wasn't going to get a sweat. And I realized, like you said, the balance comes with bringing in the meditation. And even if it just starts in your yoga class in Savasana at the end, if you can just hang out there and build it. And like I said, I think so many people, what you're saying, so many people hear the word meditation and it kind of sounds scary.
Yeah, intimidating maybe.
And it's like, wow, I don't have time to meditate. And then so many people say, I don't have time to work out. Well, that's what our philosophy, our lifestyle is just squeeze in a little bit and it's going to change your life. And then you're going to end up wanting more and more and more. And this is in terms of working out. It's also in terms of meditation. The more stillness and the more time and practice you give to this, the more you'll want it. But don't be scared. Even if it's a minute a day, that's where you start with taking your stillness.
Yeah, for me, I'll say that I think it was right around, when I was retiring gymnastics and I'd never really thought about meditating much at all, but I was starting to go through these life changes that were really hitting me hard. And, when you say you have anxiety, it's not just like, oh, I feel a little anxious. It's like, you feel like your heart's going to explode sometimes, you feel like you're going to have these panic attacks. And so I had to kind of start assessing what was going on because I'm not a big fan of taking sleep medication or any kind of drugs or anything. And I was having a really hard time sleeping. And I mean, not going to sleep some nights. And, it took me, I read a few books. One of the books I read that really helped me was When Everything Changes, Change Everything. And that, kind of reading that book and sort of realizing that the rest of the world's going through stuff like this. Change is inevitable and you have to kind of learn to accept it and learn to find your peace in it. And so I think that's, for me, was kind of the turning point. And when I started kind of searching out this kind of extra way to calm myself within this chaos. And from there, I started with, like a guided meditation, and it was really hard, like Lisa said, but, I started realizing if I just gave a little bit of time to it, slowly, I was feeling a little bit more centered and peaceful inside. And I was actually starting to sleep a little bit easier. And, it was slow. It was a slow process. But the more I realized it was helping me, the more I got into it. Now I can't say enough about meditation and finding peace in crazy moments. I really can't.
Tell me if I'm onto this with both of you, because I believe part of what I'm also hearing in the approach that you both have taken to what you're doing with the Balanced Warrior and all of the work that you're doing is that whether it be through the fitness, whether it be through the nutrition, whether it be through meditation, the stillness, you're showing people ways to get an initial, simple, even brief experience with any of these things in a way that they can benefit from, even in those 30, 60, 90 seconds initially. And because they now have that experience, now you've got something to build on. You've got something to connect to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's sort of like, the first time you try anything or the first time you start doing a little something here or there, it might be fun for a second, but the more you get good at something, the more you want to do it and the more you plug it into your life. So that's exactly correct. And actually, that is, that's what the Balanced Warrior is really all about. The Balanced Warrior is a great fitness book. There's, like we said, the quick sweats are in there. There's recipes. There's, nutrition secrets. We have a habit changing formula. It's great. But the greatest thing about this book is it's also kind of like a self-help meets fitness book. Her first whole portion is called The Warrior Mind. And it's all about, getting your head in the game basically and being able to, deal with a lot of the roadblocks that come into your life so that you can be successful in fitness. And then, from the Balanced Warrior, we created the Action Star workout program, which launches this summer. And it's kind of the same idea. I mean, you still get the quick sweats. You have really simple meals with nutrition, but the workouts are all, 30 minutes or less. you can even break some of them down into 5-minute increments if you have to. And they're very beneficial. They're amazing. They're exciting, but they're also exactly what you're talking about. These little pieces of fitness that you can shove into your day.
Yeah. And that's what I've appreciated as I've gotten into the book and am going through being a balanced warrior and getting in touch with my goddess as well. I saw all the references there, but it is. I mean, it's so practical and it's so accessible. But it is the approach that you just highlighted that stood out to me, which is this recognition, the beginning place of where are we coming from? What is our mindset? How are we approaching this? And the more that we can get into that space, we can get our mind right, we can get our energy right, then take these small steps, ground that experience. Now it really can start to create some momentum for ourselves. And the rest of it just makes it very easy to be able to maintain, because it's a, like I said, a very practical approach, a real world living approach, I guess you could say. And so one of the things you brought up, which is what I also wanted to go into, were some of those things that can get in the way, some of the roadblocks, because everybody knows we go into the change in nutrition, the change in fitness, even the desire to meditate. For 20 days, we're fantastic. And then sure enough, it just slowly starts to go by the wayside. And I was wondering if you could share not just what some of those roadblocks are, but what do we do when we begin to encounter these common roadblocks?
Well, I guess we can mention the one I think you're talking about right now, which is one of our main roadblocks can be distraction. You like you said, you're on a great program for 20 days and you're doing great. And then all of a sudden something happens and you make a mistake. I think with distraction, we're all going to get distracted. First of all, you got to be okay with it. You got to be okay that once in a while you might make a mistake. But you want to make sure that you're okay with that and you move forward and you get focused again. So I think a lot of times you get distracted, you eat a piece of pizza, or you don't go to the gym, you don't do what you're supposed to do. And then the next day you do the same thing. And pretty soon it's the same thing. It's this big, bunch of days where you've done all these things and you think you're done. I think the important thing is to forgive yourself and get focused again. You want to refocus, get back on the train. It's all good, and keep going.
Yeah, that's one of the big ones. And the biggest one for me too is the discouragement, because I think a lot of people feel this too. So many people get on the scale, and that scale sometimes doesn't always say what we want it to say, or even what, hey, I thought I was going to be 5 pounds less than I was, and then you're like, God, I've been following this program for 4 weeks, and I'm not any lighter. And, it's like, so some people say, okay, who cares? I'm just going to eat pizza and it's not working. And the whole thing is, you need to change your perspective when, you feel discouraged. It's like, okay, you know what? I have more muscle mass. So that's that. Or let's say you were, you lost a race, let's say, you got to change your perspective on, hey, that just wasn't meant to be. Hey, where am I? I'm in Hawaii on a race, let's say, or I'm racing on the beach. Look at the waves, how beautiful it is. Kind of change your perspective on the situation, and it's always going to be better.
Yeah. What have I learned from this discouragement too is a good one too, when changing your perspective. Like what did I learn by, losing this race? Okay. Did I learn that maybe I didn't put 100% into my training, or maybe I did? Maybe I'm just supposed to be able to be okay. Maybe it's about acceptance. Maybe, there's one winner in a race. Is it always going to be you? Probably not. Yeah.
It's interesting, and I'm curious about your thoughts on this, because what comes up for me in hearing these descriptions, both on distraction and discouragement, is, to me, it really starts to stand out the reasons why meditation and stillness is so important to this. Because one of the things for myself, I follow a couple of different meditation practices, but primarily mindfulness. And it's that reminder to just bring your focus back to your breath. It's not that we're not supposed to have thoughts, meaning it's not that we're not supposed to have bad days working out or eating. We will. That's okay. Just acknowledge it and bring yourself back to your breath, meaning bring yourself back to the one thing you can focus on at this moment that will put you back in the space that you want to be. And it sounds like that's a big piece of what meditation brings into what you guys do. And even then that ability to inquire of, what's really getting triggered for you when you get discouraged? What is it that's really coming up? What did you take away from this? I know something you guys say in the book, what is the progress you made if we ignore perfection? Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious for, how much, the track I'm following right now in terms of how stillness and meditation provides this wonderful balancing routine within the nutrition and fitness realm. I'm curious how much on the mark am I with the way in which you see this all working together?
Well, I mean, one thing I will say for meditation in general is that it's really helped me with acceptance. And I think there's something that we all need to realize is that, there's a reason that we have challenges in life. If we never had a challenge, we would never become a better version of ourselves. I mean, we would just stay pretty monotone where we're at. We wouldn't have to vault over that hurdle. And so for me, the more I've meditated, the more I've learned how to be okay with things not always being amazing. I mean, to be honest, Lisa and I have had, really challenging year, both of us. I mean, we're launching a program. We're both, we have 2 careers. She's got children. Both of our houses flooded a couple months ago, majorly. I mean, just, there's so much going on. And I think that, the one thing, like you said, you can go back to, okay, I can go back to my breath. Oh, I can bring all this anxiety that I'm feeling back down into this, quiet place where I can just, focus and take a deep breath again. I'm not sure if I answered your question. I'm sorry. I did kind of go off on a tangent on acceptance.
Actually, I think that was fantastic.
Sorry.
It's amazing to me the peace at which so many of us can find when we can find that acceptance, whether it's of self, acceptance of the situation, acceptance in the moment. But when we can bring ourselves back to that, it seems like so much else begins to melt away.
That's true. And, one other thing we'd love to point out is that it's very hard to be successful in any workout program if you just work out and you just have a great diet, because all of us have these stressful factors, in our life. And, meditation is an amazing form of stress management. And, when you're living in high stress, you're burning up your adrenal glands, your cortisol levels are increased. And, we all know when you have increased cortisol levels for a long period of time, you gain weight and you can't lose it. And so this is also, being able to manage your stress and get yourself centered and calm your mind is also, also applies physically to your body as well,
So this might be a good place to bring things around full circle. As you guys know, the name of the show is The Meaningful Way. And one of the things that I love being able to ask our guests is that at this point in your life and in your work, what is it that makes life and work meaningful to you both?
Lisa, you want to go ahead?
I think it's enjoying the journey. I think, as Heidi said, we both have had a really tough 2017 and 2016 was not
challenging. Probably a good
challenging.
One. Yeah.
Challenging. Yeah. We had a lot of challenges come up, and it's one thing to let's just get this done. Let's get this done. But to actually enjoy the journey of those challenges and the struggles, and hey, you know what? This is an amazing thing that we're doing, and every part of our life is we're so grateful for. And I think just to sit back and kind of take in that moment when we're so busy, because we live in this age now where we're connected to our wires. You know what I mean? You need to take the moment to disconnect and recharge yourself with the meditation, with stillness, and remind yourself, hey, I'm going to enjoy the journey, whether it be a hard day, whether it be a great day, whether it be you had some really bad news or you had some really great news. But enjoying the journey is key to living your life.
Yeah, and I do think that's a very important factor, but I also think for me, I think it's finding purpose in what you're doing. I have a very, very successful stunt and acting career, and it's lucrative, and I love it, and it's great. But probably about 10 years ago, I was sitting on set one day and was looking around, and here we are all making great money. There's tons of free food everywhere. There's, all this fling and bling. And I realized I was sitting there for probably 8 hours, just hanging out, chatting with these people, getting paid all this money, all this free food, and I wasn't doing anything. And then I started feeling like I wasn't giving back, or I wasn't contributing, or I didn't have a real purpose. And I do know that, action films are really important. People go to the theater, for entertainment, and they want to escape into the fantasy and be empowered by a superhero. And I do get that. But for me, I really, that's why Fierce Lotus is just my heart, because I wanted to have some real purpose and really give back and be able to share the things that have gotten me through these challenges and to this point.
Heidi and Lisa, I want to thank you guys for coming on The Meaningful Way and sharing so much of yourselves as well as your journey and expertise with our audience.
Well, thank you very much for having us. It's been wonderful.
Fantastic. And for everyone, I mean, there's a whole lot to take away from this conversation. I think maybe the couple of things I'd love to leave you with is just that idea of being able to take in that moment, to be able to enjoy wherever it is that you are right now, whatever it is that you're going through, and to enjoy that moment, to take that breath and recenter on what it is that matters most, so that you can find that purpose. You can find the way that you want to contribute. You can find the reason behind all the things that you're taking on for yourself and maybe for your family or for your career at this point in your life. And of course, as always, we will wrap up. And I thank you so much again for the words, because as I end every show, I want to continue everybody to remind everybody to continue to enjoy the journey. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to The Meaningful Way. If you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor and please subscribe and follow along with all these great guests, their stories, and interviews. Also, it helps us a lot if you not only share some of your favorite episodes online, but also provide us feedback. Go into iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite podcast app happens to be, and rate the show. Provide us some feedback and let us know how it is that we're doing. If you want to learn more about what we're up to, whether it be with the IPEC Coach Training School, the Live, Lead, Play Network, or even just what's evolving with The Meaningful Way, go on and head on over to lukeiorio.com.